Ladies and gentlemen, welcome to yet another very special edition of It's Me Speaking to You. I am, as always, your ever-faithful host, Mr. Jeffrey Wilson, coming to you live and direct from the Gateway to the West. And today, man, we are taking an inspirational turn today, ladies and gentlemen. This guy, I have actually just made his acquaintance kind of online through a mutual associate of ours, UFC Hall of Famer Pat Miletich, as they trained for the Leadville 100 last year. This guy, David Clark is his name. He has gone from the heights of owning an $8 million business and at the age of 29 to the depths of addiction, obesity, and bankruptcy. At 34, ladies and gentlemen, he turned it all around, reinvented himself, climbed out of the basement of life and to the top of the ultra running world. He is now a nationally renowned speaker, best-selling author, gym owner, and former American record holder. David Clark, I'm tired just saying it, brother. I can only imagine doing it. How are you today, sir?
I'm great, man. That shit don't even seem real to me.
That's quite a whirlwind, man. I mean, that's not only is that a mouthful, that's a lifetime's full of experience right there. Obviously, you know, like I said, right now you're running, you're even training for a fight. Take me back if you don't mind, man. $8 million business at the age of 29. How did that get started? That's impressive in and of itself. What did you study? What business were you into?
You know, it's kind of a crazy story. I found myself working part-time, selling mattresses, just trying to put myself through college, you know, and I found this you know, kind of part-time sales job that was providing me a lot of money considering the amount of hours that I was working. I was really good at it. I loved to just talk to people and anyway, after I got out of college, I ended up taking a big leap and purchasing the chain of mattress stores that we were kind of in competition with. They were losing money. The company was just run amok, and it was about ready to go out of business. So, you know, you don't have to pay a lot of money for a business that's getting ready to fail.
Right.
So we got it on a song, and myself and a business partner, and we turned it around. We did $8 million our first year in business and turned it into an incredibly profitable little venture. But, man, I was 29. I thought I was so damn smart, you know, and I thought I was the smartest man alive, and I was lost, and I didn't even see the waves getting ready to tumble down on me. You know?
Right. Where were you at, Colorado? I know you're living in Colorado now. Is this you Colorado born and raised?
No, I'm from New York. I was raised in the East Coast, but I went to school here at the University of Colorado, and I've been here ever since. So, yeah, there were definitely times where, you know, we'd be sitting at some hockey game or you know, watching the Colorado Avalanche or the Broncos playing, and I'm like, you know, slinging mattresses, you know, and I'm like, how the hell did I get here, you know?
Right. It's an interesting ride. Definitely interesting.
Well, you know, it is, and the funny thing is, like, you know, at that point in my life, you know, I should have been happy, obviously, right? I'm young, I'm making a lot of money. You know, there's the success and the stuff that comes with that, but
quote unquote, as we find out, quote unquote success.
Right. Yeah, like how it's conventionally defined, right?
Sure, exactly.
But the truth for me, man, is like I was on this kind of quest for happiness, I like to say, but I had the world's worst sense of direction. You know, I was trying to find it in chasing dollars and in food and in alcohol and in drugs and all these things. You know, I know we're jumping into this like full speed ahead, but, you know, I grew up in like kind of tough circumstances and spent years homeless. And so all of these things kind of, you know, in my late 20s came together and should have solidified my place and made me happy and fulfilled. And really they just exposed that I didn't really know how to be happy. I didn't know how to live my life, drugs and alcohol and stuff like that. And the food was just the symptom.
When we talk about obesity, what are we talking here?
I was 320 pounds, and in fact, I had there was a slow progression to that. You know, I would put on 50 pounds and then lose 20, and then put on 70 and lose 40, and you know, I talk about it in my book where I actually lost 50 pounds 10 different times in my life.
Wow!
Before I eventually found myself at 320 and stayed there for years and years and years, and obviously that was a big problem, and one that's, you know, I always say it doesn't matter how many times you tried and failed, right? You only have to get it right once.
Right. Very true. So 29-year-old Dave Clark, man, top of the world, balling at football games and living the life. I mean, like you said, late 20s. Yeah, I mean, even if you're not at $8 million, you think you know everything. You think you're invulnerable. But obviously, like you said, this is kind of obviously existential in the conversation, but anytime you're seeking validation externally, you're going to come up short. And obviously, so what began the, obviously this is all a big, a journey for you. What began the spiral, if you will?
Through kind of a crazy set of circumstances, it was actually after 9/11. My company started hemorrhaging money instead of making it. And it's kind of common in the furniture industry. Everybody kind of locked on, they're spending dollars, the consumers did. And everyone in the furniture industry, especially high-end retail furniture, had this big gap where the sales dropped off. And we went from $750,000 a month in sales to $300,000 or $400,000 overnight. And so that was kind of the chain of events that started this long downward spiral, and it just kept getting darker and darker. And, eventually we sold the company and kind of stepped away. And as fate would have it, I actually stepped into another business, a spinoff of that was also very successful. And the guys that we sold our company to, the old company, they went bankrupt and ran it into the ground and packing 5 years of information into, 2 minutes, they drug us down with them and pulled me into bankruptcy. And so I lost everything I had. Now I'm 32 or 33 at the time, totally broke, totally busted, not a pot to piss in. And that's when I really fell deep into the drugs and alcohol. Before, the drugs and alcohol were like always there looming, right? But I had the responsibilities kind of keeping it somewhat in check.
Right.
And I just went in, all in.
Sure. Wow. I mean, obviously, that can't sustain itself. You know what I mean? That's going to be, it's going to run its course. And eventually, as the term is, you hit a rock bottom. Did you personally have a rock bottom, or was it just kind of a slow progression that you turned your life around?
Everyone that's made it out has that rock bottom, right? But the only real rock bottom there is death. Right?
Sure.
So
no coming back from that one.
Anytime someone gets out before death, they got out before the real rock bottom, especially when drugs and alcohol are mixed in there. And, I was such an ass, in every possible way back then. Like, I wish I could fight the 29-year-old me. Like, that's what I wish I could get into the cage with, because I have some words to say to that guy, right? But the universe is so much smarter than we are, and slowly all these things got stripped away from me and made me have to deal with who I was as a human being. And what I mean by that is I love my kids, I love my family, I had nothing but tremendous, positive love for those that were within my circle. But if you weren't in that circle, I was a very manipulative person. I assumed I was smarter than you. I assumed I was better than you. And obviously, when you end up 320 pounds and bankrupt, it's kind of hard to hold on to that picture of who you are.
Yeah,
right?
yeah, a little self-delusion there.
When you're making money, right? So I really got to this place where I woke up one morning and, this thought hit me. I had tried to quit a bunch of times and for whatever reason could never just find the right leverage. But it hit me in this way that was like, what if instead of being like this really smart guy, that this picture of who you thought you were, what if you're really just the dumbest person you ever met? And that switched everything around on me, and I decided that I had an opportunity to change my life entirely and show my kids what a comeback looks like. And so I went to an AA meeting, and it's something that I'd done before, but I went and I listened. And in my book, I actually talked about that first surrender moment as potentially the first time I ever truly listened to what other people had to say instead of just letting them talk so that I could go ahead and talk,
Right.
So that was it, man. That was it. That was rock bottom. And I didn't know what to do in that moment, so I needed to address the physical problems I had in my life as well as the spiritual. So I started running because I didn't know what else to do.
And that was the catalyst that kind of got everything obviously into the ultra running. But your first thought was, obviously stay sober. But then it was, wow, we gotta get this weight off. And your best way to do that was the running.
Yeah, I mean, I had all of these. I still have like copies of Runner's World that go back to like 98, 99.
Runner's World.
Where I would go buy these things, hung over, and like I'd look through the pages and I'd go, like, that looks good to me. That's compelling to me to be able to just like, this task, running was so impossible for me, right? Like I couldn't run 15 seconds. So the thought of, it seemed like the ability to fly or something, you know what I mean? It seemed like a superpower.
Right.
It was like if I could just put on shoes and like run through my neighborhood.
And run for longer than 60 seconds? What?
Yeah. Who are these freaks?
Right. He's an X-Men.
And it was kind of like that, man. But it was like the emotional stakes were high. I've always been kind of an extreme person, and the conventional picture of recovery or health just wasn't, vivid enough for me. I joked around that I had to wait until it seemed impossible for me to try it, and I pushed it all the way to the point where I really think I was on the brink of death. I had a heart condition. I had high blood pressure. My doctor told me I was going to have a stroke any day, and I had herniated discs in my back that I didn't even know about at the time. And so I pushed myself to the brink, and that's when I started fighting the hardest, is when it seemed the most hopeless. And I don't know, for some reason that's been a theme in my life.
Thriving under pressure, man, when your back's against the wall. I mean, obviously that's a make or break kind of situation, do or die.
I think that's the way we all are as human beings, right? Like we respond with our best when we're cornered or when the stakes are the highest. When we really have to, we respond. But usually it takes something to push us out of that comfort trap we get in.
Unfortunately, that's how I was like in college. I would wait to the last second to do my paper, but using that same kind of philosophy, I would like totally thrive on it and knock it out of the box. So it's like, unfortunately, that would be my MO. I'd wait to the last second to do something. But anyway.
I think it's because like when we focus our commitment to one thing, we can do anything.
Sure.
The problem is we never fully commit to one thing.
Consistently too. I've heard that said people,
right.
Especially about the gym, like, New Year's resolutions, but I'm motivated, man. Like that motivation is going to go away. It'll come back too, but it'll go away, and you have to have the discipline, the self-discipline. So it's like, that's oftentimes what people lack. Heck, everybody can get motivated, but, who can stay the course? 1,000 points of light. Stay the course. Dave Clark, you and my boy Pat Miletich have done something. Well, you, sir, I mean, correct me if I'm wrong. The Leadville 100 is a 100-mile foot race through the mountains at altitude, correct?
That is correct.
And you, I forget what year it was, you did it basically twice at once. Is this correct? You ran it and then ran it back. So you did 200 miles.
That's incorrect, actually.
Okay, good, because I was thinking that's inhuman. How does one do that?
Well, hold on.
You attempted it, by God.
You know what? It's really it's such a big conversation. What happened? I've run 48 hours on a treadmill nonstop. I've been close to running 200 miles. I ran across Colorado. I mean, I've done other things within that space. But what happened to me strangely is on my 4,000th day of recovery this year, I had this idea of running the Leadville 100 twice. And for me, the question I get all the time is, did you trade addictions from alcohol and drugs and food to running? And for me, that's a simple answer, because addiction has to have a destructive component to it. It has to be something you're engaging in despite all these negative consequences. And certainly that can happen with running. I've seen it happen a lot.
Sure.
But for me, I've always felt like my running needs to resemble my recovery, not my addiction. And that's been a balancing act, right? And so I went out to Leadville to do this 200-mile run, and I got out there, and I was like, here I am. on, 11 years of sobriety, 4,000th day, and my kids are at home, and here I am running through the mountains. I had just finished running all the way across the country with some friends a couple months earlier, or not even, like a month and a half earlier. And the thought hit me out of nowhere, like, where does this end for you, Dave? Like, where are you? I felt for the first time that I was actually approaching that place where my running was choosing for me instead of me choosing for it. And it actually turned off into this big project that's a documentary called Hell Bent that I'm making right now that specifically addressed, like, well, if everything you do looks extreme, how do you define what's too much?
Yeah.
Right? And so that's a really big topic. But so I ended up telling my friends about halfway through. I felt great. I was totally capable of doing it. Honestly, I could have done 50 miles a day for 10 days for forever. My body was just in that place. But it became this act of like, well, can you just surrender this and give it up? Run 100 miles and then go run the Leadville 100 with the rest of your friends, in a few weeks, which is what you should be doing anyway. So I ran the 100, I called it quits, and then I ran the actual Leadville 100 a couple weeks later.
Ah, okay. Still very, very, very impressive feat, man. That's endurance running I didn't really know what it was. And so I saw a lot of the coverage that Pat had, and then I saw some of your stuff. I was really just astounded, man. The human body is capable of oftentimes way much more. As I look at the words here, we are Superman, way more than we realize.
Yeah, man, that's so true. Like the only thing that binds us is fear. And, for me, my first workout was literally 15 seconds of running, 1 minute of walking. 15 seconds of running, 1 minute of walking for 20 minutes. And I trained months and months and months, over a year, to run one single marathon. And running a marathon for anybody is a really big thing. And the fact that I can run a marathon or 2 or 3 or 4 or 5 or 6 in a row now isn't a testament to like some superhuman ability. It's just a testament to what we can do when we break down those barriers and break down, our own concept of what we can and can't do. Because I would have never believed it. If I can do it, man, anyone can do it. I'm not like a crazy gifted athlete. I'm just a schmuck who used to eat and drink all the time. You hear about those guys who show up and win their first race and find all this, hidden talent they had. That's not me.
Well, you're definitely making it happen, and you're letting people realize your past obviously does not equate to your future, man. You're doing some really, obviously, inspirational, amazing stuff. And, training is obviously, I see Pat starting to train. You're obviously probably in shape all the time to train, but you guys have the Leadville coming up again this August. But I'm not sure if you're still at it, but you have taken on another challenge. If I'm not mistaken, my friend, I believe you are stepping into the Octagon or the ring. Am I correct or am I mistaken?
No, that is 100% correct, man. That's the next thing, it's something that I always had the desire to do. And I always thought maybe in another life that might have been the path I would have chosen. And so it's kind of this thing, like, it's something that I've always wanted to do and something that I'm afraid of. And I usually don't like to let those two things live very long. You know what I mean? Especially when they're the same thing. And so through this crazy set of circumstances, becoming friends with Pat and seeing Pat stepping out of the Octagon and into Leadville, it just presented this opportunity to be able to do it. I assumed to be like me and some guy in the back of a gym somewhere, but to be able to do it in a big way, in a public way, and shine light, to stand in the light for other people who might be struggling with addiction or weight loss or those types of things, and say, hey, look, we are Superman. It's not me, it's we. We all have that capacity to do shit that just doesn't seem possible.
So when's that going down? Obviously you're training now. When and where is that going to be taking place, my friend?
It's going to be going down in Denver. The plan right now is to do it before one of the RFA, which is now, I guess, the LFA.
Yeah.
First Bank Center, and do that before. I won't actually be officially on the card, I don't think, but it'll be like a pro exhibition before the actual fight. So that way Pat can corner me and shout at me or do whatever he's going to do to me.
Which, yeah, he's definitely well known to do it. So he's going to be Access or whoever's going to be there. He's going to be announcing later that evening.
Yep. Yep. And Pat is being so gracious, to kind of mentor me, and train me through this process too. It's pretty cool. Like the friendship, it's deep in some interesting ways, like as an addict, that's an ultra runner, battling myself is always the name of the game. Like I always say that I think I make a reasonably good ultra runner because I know the voices in my head can't be trusted. And so I'm used to that. I've lived in that space for a long time. And whereas Pat, likes to say that, he's used to fighting someone who's standing in front of him throwing punches, but
Sure.
This constantly battling against yourself is new, So it's interesting. It's been pretty cool.
Well, and that is awesome, like the kind of symbiotic relationship that's created. You kind of mentor him on the running, and vice versa with him with the MMA. I'll be anxious to see. I'm sorry. Go ahead.
Go ahead. Sorry, man.
No, bro. Go ahead.
No, it's insane to think, Pat Miletich, like to hear him say things like he's nervous, he's scared, he's having a panic attack thinking about the run, and I'm like, dude, this is a run. Like, it's not like some other guy standing over there trying to hurt you, for me, it's like so bizarre, and for him, it's the other way. He's like, nah, I used to sit, stand in the ring and say, like, I can't believe they're going to beat or pay me to beat this guy up.
That's funny.
That's a direct Miletich quote, by the way.
I don't doubt it. I mean, they had the Fight Pass this weekend for free, and I went in and pretty much checked out most of his fights. And I'm just like, I hit him up. I'm like, he went to the distance with most of these guys. Like, his cardio was just insane. And with a little bit of jiu-jitsu I've even done, like, with that kind of thing, you have to be on, defending, fighting, offensive, defense at all times. So it's so taxing and exhausting. I was getting tired literally just watching. I'm like, I'm just a testament to how much of a warrior him and all those guys at the Miletich fighting system were. But the cardio was just insane. That has to be when you're training for that, on the bike or the treadmill, you got to have a little bit of a mental game there too. Like, stop, man, I'm tired. Like, no, we're in the 5th round, dude. You know what I mean? You don't want to be held deep in the 5th round and not have your cardio up. So Pat was a monster, is a monster.
Absolutely, man. Absolutely. That's been the only, thread throughout this. I'm about 3 months into the training process, and it's been really cool. But, the one being kind of the new guy in everything, the one kind of advantage I have is the cardio. Like, the longer these things go, the better I'm doing. So
yeah, it's very true.
I just pick up the pace as ferociously as possible because that equalizes the skill level eventually, at least until hopefully my skill level comes up.
Yeah, right. Then become a level playing field. Yeah, you mess around and become like the Diaz brothers, man. Them guys are beasts, man. They do triathlons, and those guys are amazing with their cardio. So yeah, you get your technique up, and that definitely could prove, that's true, man. Your cardio is not an issue for you, my friend.
I got good coaches in my corner.
Absolutely. The Croatian Sensation. You cannot go wrong. Well, my man, David Clark, thank you so very much, man. I could obviously probably pick your brain forever, and I know a lot of these stories have a lot of nuance to it. But if anybody wants to go check him out, you can go see wearesuperman.com. It pretty much is a one-stop shop to, his YouTube page, what he's up to, if you want to hire him for a speaking engagement. Man, I definitely thank you so very much, dude. You are definitely an inspirational cat, brother.
Hey, I appreciate that, man. We all fight battles. We all win. I'm just lucky enough to be able to share what I've been through in a public way, and that's been more of a gift to me, I think, than anyone else. So I'll just keep plugging away.
Well, and the ripple effect is huge, man. And it sounds cliche, but I mean, it's never the destination. I know you realize that. It's the journey, and through that journey, man, you've definitely inspired a lot of people. So keep at it. I'll be definitely watching you and Pat for Leadville. And man, I will do my damnedest to get out there to Denver to see you in your first scrap, my friend.
Honestly, man, I'll try not to get any blood on you.
No, that's all right. I'm no stranger to a little mess, dude. No problem at all. David Clark, ladies and gentlemen, inspirational human being, and man, he's got a big mountain to climb here with his first MMA match coming up soon. Thank you so very much, my friend, and safe training on both of your endeavors coming up.
Thanks, brother. Appreciate it, man.
All right. Take care, ladies and gentlemen. It's been Jeffrey Wilson. It's me speaking to you. Stay tuned. There will be more.